The TDSB has pitched closing schools as a money-saving measure that could help them climb out of a major deficit. But the education minister quickly shutting down those efforts and even going as far as to say this is proof the board is incapable of managing its own budget. Unlike the rest of Ontario, the TDSB argues Toronto is in a unique position.
Here in Toronto, there are some situations where you have a number of schools in very close proximity to one another.
Some of those schools are operating at half capacity. Where there is room for 1,000 students, only 500 are enrolled.
Can we look at that, maybe consolidate some, build a new state-of-the-art school, offer additional opportunities for students?
The TDSB says exempting them from a province-wide ban on school closures and allowing them to consolidate up to 4 schools a year could be a real win for Toronto students and communities. It would let them operate in a more financially efficient way. After all, it costs the same to clean, heat, and maintain schools, whether they are half empty or full. But it's a firm no from the education minister, who blames the board for mismanaging its budget.
They need to act as a responsible actor of tax dollars and do what virtually every board will do, which is balance their budget. That's the message to the board.
Stephen Lecce says the TDSB has received $128 million more in funding since 2019, while effectively managing the same number of students, and maintains there are other ways of coming up with more money.
They're sitting on the largest real estate portfolio in the city of Toronto.
But the board estimates even if it were to sell school board property, that would only bring in $22 million, not enough to address its projected $27 million deficit and a ballooning repair backlog.
While we appreciate some additional funding from the province, to address a maintenance renewal backlog of more than $4 billion is a monumental task. Some of that money could be essentially taken off the books if we are allowed to consolidate some schools that we know are aging, would cost millions to repair, and we know are underutilized.
School boards are literally having to decide where they're going to cut next. I mean, what is next? Like, are kids not going to be able to have colored chalk? When the minister talks about downloading these responsibilities, continuing to download these responsibilities onto school boards and doesn't give them a hand up, I think school boards are left with very few options.
But do you think it's a good idea then to lift the moratorium?
No, I think that the government should properly fund school expansions.
The education minister says his government's priority is the opposite of closing schools. In fact, they are investing $1.3 billion to build new schools across the province. In the meantime, he says he's awaiting a formal proposal from the TDSB on how they will balance their budget. For City News, I'm Tina Yazdani.